Greetings, YouTube, and welcome to my next crafting project, which is not a weapon. Yes, this crafting project is going to be an emergency heater. Now, I saw online an article was talking about an emergency heater that was being recommended for those who are unhoused. So people who are in shanty towns, or they're in tents and tarp type structures that needed heat in the winter. And their suggestion was to take a pot like this, put a couple of horizontal bricks, put a candle on the horizontal bricks, put a couple of bricks on their side, and put this on top. And the logic behind this whole process is that the handle will heat up the terracotta, which then captures and then radiates the heat to the tent itself. And that is a functioning emergency heater. It is also, in my opinion, a death trap. This idea is incredibly dangerous. If none of this stuff is secured to each other, it would be very easy to set yourself on fire. And depending on type of ventilation in the shelter you have, there's the potential of producing excess carbon monoxide. Admittedly, a small chance, but it's still there. So I looked around at alternative ideas, and lots of people had them. So what they did is that they took this a step up. And the step up they took was to attach everything together with a threaded rod. Okay? So they would have a pan, usually a round one. I don't have a round baking pan. Apparently in my house we don't bake things in round shapes. We bake things in square shapes. So we have bread pans and we have things like this, which has a great little cover it slides onto it. So you bake in it and you cover it up. It's awesome. And they would put multiple candles in there, and they would have a hole here for a threaded rod like that, and then they would pass that through terracotta pots. And I actually saw a number of designs. One of them even had 4 pots. I'm using 2 here because this is a proof of concept. This is just show you how it's done. I don't actually expect to use this, and maybe I will. It's an emergency heater. Maybe I will have someday an emergency that I need to heat. But at the moment, this is just going to be used as a demonstration because I saw some things online that made me very nervous. And this makes me very nervous. You see that? That's dangerous. And I'm not just saying that theoretically. While poking around on YouTube for videos, I found a video of a guy who made one of these emergency heaters. I think he used 2 pots as well. And he had a pan like this. It was round, but it was still the same concept. And he was using candles. They may have been using votives, but the point is that they were candles. And he had the threaded rod going through a hole in here, and he had washers and nuts holding everything together, just like I'm going to be using washers and nuts. I have 2 different sizes because there's 2 different hole sizes here. This one's a little bit bigger. And while on a sailboat, he used this as a heater. But one of the candles completely melted, which then wicked down the threaded rod to the area below his emergency heater, and then one of the candles lit everything on fire. And he had a fire on a boat, on the ocean, which is the worst place you want a fire, ever, with the exception maybe a submarine. Thankfully, he put it out quickly. There was no structural damage. It was purely cosmetic. He was able to continue on his way. And while I'm watching him do this, watching this video, I'm thinking to myself, why did you do this? This was bad. I saw ones with pans. I also saw ones that use terracotta trays. You can get terracotta trays that go under pots, and they just drilled a hole in the middle, which you can do with a masonry bit if you ever want to do that. So I thought to myself, instead of using something like that, why the heck didn't he use something like this? So here's our candles. Now every candle is in its own little container. So if that completely melts, even if it catches on fire, it's contained to this. Threaded rod is steel. These are fireproof. This is fireproof. Yes, it's going to be scary. You're going to want to put it out immediately, but you're not going to burn the object down, and you're very unlikely to burn the object down around you. In addition, because the hole I'm going to put is going to be here, and the candle's here, and any pooling wax will be there, it's not going to wick down the center of this threaded rod. Never going to happen. Now, this is a 4-piece pan. Obviously, people have seen these. Most folks have a 6 or 8 one in their house already. Finding a 4-1 was actually something I could not do in person. I had to go online and find one. This cost me $5. It cost me $5 in shipping, which is annoying, but I could not find one in person. I searched multiple thrift shops. No stores had them, even though Walmart's online store has these types, but their physical brick and mortar stores do not. And so I ended up having to buy one. I went on Amazon and picked it up. So this is what I'm going to use for my project. Now, another thing that a lot of folks did was hang them. Obviously, the guy on the boat, he hung his on the sailboat because boats, they're doing this in the ocean. So you want an object that swings. Lots of things on sailboats are on gimbals, and by hanging this is essentially the same idea. It's why they use lanterns that swung on sailboats, because they would swing around and they would not tip over and they would not start fires, at least in theory. So people were hanging these things up. I saw some, and they made some really nice decorative ones they could hang in a living room. They made a stand for them, which was really cool. Again, you could hang them in a sailboat, but everyone was using cordage. And I'm like, why are you using cordage, which is either meltable or flammable, on an object that has flames? No. You use one of these, and then you use one of those. Now you have something you can hang that is completely fireproof. I could throw that in the fire and nothing's going to happen to it other than make it black. So I'm going to build one of these, and I'm going to use my threaded rod, which is a 1/2 inch, 24 I think, this coupler, which is a 1/2 inch, 24 female to female through coupler, and then this, which is just a standard eye bolt. And I picked up all of the components for this, I think came in at $32. Now, if you already have terracotta pots, and lots of people have terracotta pots, obviously you would be saving $15. I paid, actually no, $13. I paid $10 for this, and I think I paid $3 or $4 for that one. Yeah, $13 or $14 for those. You might have threaded rod. I have threaded rod here at the house, but I wasn't sure if I had, I didn't have the right size, but I had some, so I could actually throw something like this together in an emergency. This is also going to be a very low skill project, because all you have to do is drill a single hole here. So I'm going to drill a 1/4 inch hole in there, and then I'm going to use a step drill to open that up until it is the size of that. And once I've just got that, I want it to be snug, I'm going to stop, and then I will start attaching everything together, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to have a nut washer on the bottom, then a nut and a washer on top, and then a nut and washer attaching this here. Yeah, probably there. And then this, with after a space, will have a nut and washer holding it. Well, it's just going to have 2 washers, because again, I need 2 different washers because the hole sizes are different. And then at the top, we'll have a threaded rod, and then the eye bolt. I have not measured this yet, so I may cut this thing down. I haven't decided, or I may just keep it as it is. I'll see when the spacing, how much I have left over, because this is going to give you an extra, 5 inches. So you may not want that thing to be full length. I believe this is 24 inches long. So that's the project that I'm working on today. So the first thing to do is drill a hole and then start the assembly project. And when the assembly is finished, we will have an emergency heater that will be technically capable of sitting down on the ground, which I don't recommend, but you could also hang it. I realize that everybody's going to have different situations, so you may not have a place to hang something. But because this is going to be the way it's designed, it will be stable, and it will not allow wax to wick down the threaded rod, which is a major danger. Major danger, it rhymed. Alrighty, so let's get a hole drilled, and then we can start assembly. I actually had to bring my step drill all the way down to here because this is 1/2 inch. So I ended up having to go all the way through the step drill to get to that point. I really need to get a larger step drill, one with a larger hole sizes. They're not cheap though. I can go to Harbor Freight and pick one up probably, because I don't use them often enough to get like a high quality one. But it has succeeded. Now I have a 1/2 inch hole in my pan, and again I clamped it down so it would be safe, so that it would not be moving around when I was drilling, because I don't like things moving when I'm drilling. I've had things in my day spin while holding them, and that is a dangerous, dangerous thing to have happen. Whenever you use a drill press, please never wear fabric gloves. Wear leather gloves, wear rubber gloves, wear the high-tech work gloves that are made out of, rubberized stuff, whatever, fine. But don't wear fabric gloves, because I have seen people wearing fabric gloves, and when you have a drill bit and you have fabric gloves, the drill bit can catch the fabric glove and it will pull you right into the drill bit. I've seen this happen. It is not pretty. Alright, so I'm actually going to try to do some assembly live in front of this. My tripod's not the best. I really need to get a better one for down here in the shop. Or build some ceiling. I'm thinking of making me some ceiling mounted process that I can clamp in place and then move around. Because I've got rafters above my head, so I got lots of clamping places. But yeah, I'm trying to think I may want to do that. So what I've got here is I have preloaded this nut and this nut, because this is the nut that's going to be inside here, and this is the nut that's going to be on top of here. And I realized that I'm going to have to tighten things up before I get to them. So what do I mean by that? Because the fasteners that are going to be between these two are not going to be accessible to me once I have it assembled. And I don't want them to be that close to each other, like nut to nut. So what I did is I poked around my shop and I found this. I actually don't know what this is. It's just a steel piece of tubing, and I got it in a lot years and years ago of nuts and washers of odd and large sizes. I have some that probably make an excellent, just very simple mace out of it. I think I may do that. But this is perfect. So I can do this, sandwich that together, and that will give me the space I want between this pot and that pot. So that solves that problem beautifully. So at this point, this right now is just a figure out how long I want that to be out, because I want it to be well within the height of this cup. I don't want it to be sticking out, so we're going to put that like that. We're going to put that there, and we're going to. That needs to go in out a little further than I had it. So I want it pretty much flush with the end of the bolt. So we're going to put that on there now, and then I can monkey around with the specifics. Almost. So. And there we go, that's good. So, just a classic open-ended box wrench. I do have a dog bone here in case I need it for anything. And there we go, that is going to be the finished deal. And once I get this on here and I'm going to fit the top one, I can't do that until I get it assembled to really get an idea. I'm probably going to cut this thing off. And I will I can do that fairly easily once I get these things. This can be mounted and I can still cut that off. It's pretty small. I want to get it done before I have that mounted though, because this is a larger pot. So now it's going to be a washer, and it's going to be my first terracotta pot like that, and then another washer. Nut. Now this is going to be the most tedious thing in the whole bloody universe. So I have to bring this nut all the way down the darn stab, which is zero fun. I don't know how many people have had to do this in their day, but it's not a lot of fun. I have seen people use like drills to like little rubber discs there to make this faster, and they are correct. There are faster methods of doing this than the way I'm doing it, but alrighty, so I got that as centered as I can. I'm going to hold that nut a little bit. Seems to be tight. Okay. Pot is not going anywhere, and because terracotta is what you would call brittle, I am not going to be putting any additional pressure on there. So that's going to go there, and then we get to do this all over again, because again, there's And again, I know you could probably someone be asking, why don't you just take the measurements? And I gotta be honest, I have not had the best luck in my day with measuring things exactly the way I want them, because sometimes decisions are based purely on aesthetics, and when decisions are based purely on aesthetics, you really gotta make some choices. Like, I'm gonna do this, and I may find out I want this whole assembly to go back up again. I don't know yet, so we're gonna find that out. That pot may be too low for this. I have not figured that out yet. So, I'm not tightening that up. I'm just going to stop it. I will tighten that up. I will tighten these two against each other so that's not going anywhere. Now we're going to put that on there. And now I'm going to put my big pot and see how low my big pot is. And we're probably going to find that I'm too damn low. And am I too damn low? Yes, I'm too damn low. I need to get that whole assembly up higher. But a good thing, it's a simple process, and I don't even have to take the nuts I already have on the shaft off the shaft. I just have to make a few adjustments. So those I don't need my way though. However, the bottom one's going to be a pain in the butt. Absolutely. There's no way I can get around this not being a pain in the butt. Oh, but on the plus side, because I have made that gap between the pot and the pan larger, means I can get my wrist in here, so it's not all bad. There we go. Alright, so now I have that there. So again, hold the nut. After I center this a bit. There we go, just a smidge snug. And then we're going to try the same dealio on the top. Just finger tight at the minute. You can see me be clumsy. Other way around, yes. Small, then large. And then we're going to do it again and see if I'm happy with this. Yeah, I should be able to get that in there. I think I may want to come up just another inch. Just another inch, because I want to be able to make it big enough if somebody wants to use votives on this thing, they could. And because we're using this style here, you could use a votive and not be concerned about the votive not having a container, because again, it's just going to pool right there. Let me check my camera. Okay, so you're seeing what I'm doing. It's not the most interesting thing in the universe, I realize. So I'm going to turn this segment off. I'm going to make the adjustments, and then I'm going to come back after I have gotten to the final stage where I'll be attaching the eye bolt. So on to the next section, which for you will just be one clip away. Alrighty, so now I am done, and I'll show you the whole thing when it's upstairs hanging up, because I'm going to test this in my apartment. I ended up not needing this nut. I completely forgot about the fact that my connection here is going to act as a nut, because it's exactly the same size, so I just used that up here. I did cut this down, obviously. I didn't cut this off yet. I'm going to hang it and see if I like it. This is the easiest thing to remove, so I'll be able to take this off and cut it down if I want. Say if I want it to be hidden, I could cut it down so there's only about yay much of the thread showing. Well, sorry, probably can see that better centering. About that much of the thread showing on this eye bolt, and it would tighten it up. But I'm going to see how it looks upstairs. It is, I'll freely admit though, it's not the lightest thing in the universe. So I'm glad that I have some good strong hooks upstairs that are currently being used for plants. I'll be moving one of the plants so I can hang this up and test it. Now my goal is to test this in the bathroom. It's the smallest room in the house. It is the only room that has a door so I can completely close it and I keep the cats out, other than my bedroom, which is a much bigger space. And I can't really keep the cats out of the bedroom easily because I have a cat door in my bedroom door so the cats can come and go as they please. The bathroom is the only room in the house that we actually can close things off in. So I'm going to be testing this in the bathroom. I'll be doing a temperature test, and my goal is to take a temperature reading before we start, light them up, have it 4 candles, and check it every 15 minutes for an hour, and then see if it has made a significant difference to this, as well as has it made a difference in the room itself. I will not be using the ceiling light because that has a fan and I don't want to be drawing the hot air out of the room. I want to keep the air in the room. And because I am deeply paranoid, I'm going to be sitting in the room for an hour on my phone reading because I do not want a flame in my home that is unobserved. I have survived an apartment fire before. I don't recommend it. Oh, I recommend surviving. I don't even recommend experiencing one. And the one I went through, thankfully, the only thing I lost were some soft furnishings, like my 2 sofas. I got rid of those. Well, actually, I got rid of one sofa and some other things. One of them I kept because it was quite useful. Yeah, it was a bad day. We lost one of the tenants died, and it was all caused by a candle. So yeah, I have a big fear of candles. So this will be setting up in my bathroom with me in the room, all ready to go in case there is a problem. Thankfully, because this is so contained, putting it out will be really easy. I can just go if I really want to, and it's going to go out. So that's the next stage. I would have preferred if I could have found an eye bolt that wasn't quite so massive, because it is a big thing, but it looks so much better than cordage, and it is so much safer than cordage. Even paracord will melt under heat, and then you have something falling to the ground, which is now on fire. So that's bad. So this whole thing is now much, much more fireproof, even if it isn't the lightest thing in the universe. But like I said, the hook I've got already is holding a large pot full of dirt. So that's not going to be a problem. So time to clean up down here a little bit, put my tools away, because I've been actually trying to police my working area a bit more than I used to. I'm trying to be more organized. It's not easy for me. And a sneak peek, that may be the next project. If you know what that is, good, because it's a weird looking object and you may not be able to tell. But okay, so put this away, take this upstairs, and we're going to start working on getting it set up so I can do the actual burning test and see if this thing can produce enough heat to make a difference in a room. So here we have the unit in place. I did remove my toilet paper roll just in case. And I actually had to extend this because I didn't take into account, sorry for the bright light, that this was going to be so high, because again it's for a plant hanger which has its own line. And that right there is a antique weight hook for a scale. It's made out of brass. So we have length of chain, which I have an abundant supply of. I didn't have to cut that, I just had it sitting around. Standard S-hook, and then the unit itself hanging. I have just checked in here. I have a timer set for 15 minutes. It is 66 degrees in here in a moment, and this thing is currently 65 degrees. Oh, 64.5 degrees. So I'm gonna light it up. As soon as I light it up, hit the timer, and in 15 minutes I'll take another reading and see if there's a change to the unit or to the room itself. And I have a seat and some water, and I'm going to hang out with the plants and test this thing for the next hour in relative safety. So here we go. Yay for science! Alrighty, so it's 92 degrees on the unit. So that's come up almost 30 degrees in 15 minutes. I have no increase in the room itself. So we're going to keep going and see what happens in 15 more minutes. Alright, second test. It's 116 degrees, so that's not bad at all. I still have no improvement in the room, however, but this is definitely putting out heat. Here we are at the 45-minute mark. we have 123.5 degrees. And if you put your hands on this, it is noticeably warmer. The room is not warmer, but I have the thermostat set further away from it. And I don't think that the sun's not affecting us because it's a cloudy day, first off. But secondly, this is on the north. This was the north wall of the building. It never gets direct sun, ever. How our plants survive is a mystery to me, but they do. So this is producing heat, and if you're close to it, it's going to keep you warm. We're going to see how hot it gets after the full hour, and that's 15 minutes from now. All right, 1 hour mark. We have 122. So this thing seems to be topping out at 123 degrees with 4 candles going. But these small candles are almost completely out. So this would work better with votives, and like you can get votives in a little glass, their own little glass containers, and they would slide right in there without a problem, because this is a big enough gap to get them in there. And they're going to provide more light and heat for a longer period of time. I just bought these cheap. I bought a bag of like a dozen of them for $3. This is, I think I've proven that it is useful, and I've just, as an experiment, I've just put my thermostat up here on the windowsill, which is putting it much closer to the unit. So I'm going to let that go for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to give it another reading to see if that actually goes up. And once I'm fully done, I'll blow these candles out. I'm going to leave this thing hanging here to cool off. Now this is visibly, this is warm. This is entirely warm as well. The entire upper hook is hot. The S hook and the chain on the way up is not. The S hook is the point where the heat is just, it can't get any further, and it just heats up this thing. But the whole thing is going to act as your radiator. Now, one thing I have seen is some people will put a terracotta dish on top facing downward to capture more heat and act as a radiator. That's not a bad idea, but the terracotta platter will be more delicate and easier to damage because it's a larger surface and you're going to be easy to hit it. But you will have to drill a hole in it and use this masonry bit, and if you're really concerned about it, you could always put it underwater and drill it that way so make sure it's going to be cooled, like in a shallow plastic tub or something. But you could do that as well. Now, one thing that I haven't touched on is where you should put this. This is fire. Hanging it like this is the safest. So if you've seen me touch it and it's swinging, it's not going to get knocked over. Because I'm using this type of pan, all the candles are separated from each other. There is no cross-contamination risk, nor is there a risk of anytime melted wax wicking down that threaded rod to the world down here. You can also adjust this by bringing this up and down because of the way I've designed it if you want to. So hanging this is going to be someplace safe, and the safest place to really put this, in my opinion, is in a fireplace. And you might be asking, why are you putting an emergency heater in a fireplace if you have a fireplace? Well, not everyone has firewood, and if you have a supply of candles and this, you have heat, and it's going to be low-cost heat. Firewood can be expensive. Say if you're in an urban environment, you're going to have to purchase it and get it delivered. It's not cheap, as opposed to having your own property where you can collect it relatively easily. Also, lots of apartment buildings in urban areas, and everywhere, every apartment type environment will often have fireplaces which have been deactivated. You can't use them. But they're still a brick enclosure surrounded on 5 sides by fireproof material. And some of them even have the old pot hooks in them that people use to hang plants and things on, or decorations. So those would be the best place to put this. And even if you put it on the brick on the ground, it's safe. It's really hard to knock over. It's fireproof. And that is your ideal location to put this, in my opinion. But if you don't have a fireplace, any location where you're going to be sleeping so that you can have warmth in your sleep is the best. And it should, in my opinion, never be unoccupied. The room should always have somebody watching this unit, because fire is nothing to mess with. And like I said, I've lived through it. And the smell, even today, it's been close to 20 years now. More than 20 years, actually. And even now, the smell of an urban fire will trigger me like nobody's business. I don't like it. But I think this has been a successful project. Again, 30 bucks or 32 bucks, I think, for the entire thing, top to bottom. And I have some rod left over, which I can use for another project, so that's always good. So I'm going to let this burn out, I think, stay in here until, unless it gets too late, because I have to eat lunch soon. But it has gone up 2 degrees so far, just in the time I've talked to you here in this last section. So it is producing heat, and it's raising the temperature of the room around it. It just is not going to be a huge amount of heat unless you're close to it. But you put this in the right place, you sleep near it, this could mean the difference between having a miserable day and being able to get some decent sleep and not freezing to death, because you don't want to be too cold. So I think this is a cool design, and frankly, to my mind, this is the safest emergency heater I have ever seen. So if anybody out there knows a safer model design, I am more than willing to listen to it. I think this is a cool idea, and I'd like to hear others' ideas of how they have used them. So this has been my emergency heater. I hope you find it interesting, and I hope that you come back for the next build.